welcome to the Polar Opposite Podcast. This is the Cinematic Reviews, the number one podcast for cinephile observance, or just you casual moviegoers that love all things cinema. Have you ever felt that you just can't get movies or maybe even TV shows off your mind? Say you just got off work, school, maybe it's the middle of your day off, and perhaps you just got nothing really going on. Well then, this is the podcast for you. We're going to be breaking down and diving into all your favorite movies to watch and stream. I'm your host, Brendan Polar, and at my right is my co-host.
Hey yo, what's up? This is Alfred Andrew here with the Polar Opposites. Let's get some movie reviews. Let's have some fun.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in with us today on this show. And as always, have a great day.
And I want you all to like this, share it, comment, and subscribe. Have the day that you deserve.
Thank you so much, everybody. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Polar Opposite Podcast. Once again, joining me, as always, is my co-host and good friend,
Alfred Andrew.
What's up, dude?
What's up? What's
up, dude? How you doing?
Oh, man, spectacular.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. Having fun today.
Yes.
We got a couple of things planned.
Mm-hmm.
So just enjoying life, enjoying the energy.
Yes. That's a good thing. We have very good energy here today, so we're liking this. We're keeping this up. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. So we watched some good movies.
We did.
Yeah, I definitely liked my movie, Kate. Kate was a really fun movie. Like, which movies did you watch?
I watched two movies that have very similarities, and they're both horror movies starring very good female roles. One of them is called Malignant, and that's James Wan news movie. And the other one is Rebecca Hall's. She's the star of this one, and the movie's called The Night House. And have a lot of similarities as far as not just the female characters, but sort of dealing with traumatic experiences, sort of through the elements of horror, which I don't think are very well done, at least typically today in horror. And to see them well done as they were in these two movies is something I think should be shared with people. And actually, if you're fans of horror movies, or even if you just want to check out something casual, you should definitely check out this. Yeah. So let's dive into it today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you want to start with yours today?
Yeah. Sure. Well, for me, how I want to experience this movie is talking about creative kills, theme of the year, and best supporting actor. And start off with the actors. Great cast. Mary Elizabeth as Kate, Woody Harrelson as Varric.
Always great.
Woody.
Yeah.
Little lady Miku, Patricia as Ani. And a couple of familiar faces. I feel like I've seen Jun Kunimura as Kim Kojima, and like I've seen him in different movies before, and just really cool people in the space of the movie because like all the actors were just like they were high level actors. They knew what they were doing. Yeah. And Kate in this movie, Kate was the ultimate tool, in the situation. Like, she had very little personality in the space of like she is a trained killer, and she's been a trained killer since at least about the age maybe like between 5 and 7. Wow. And like and so it's like she there's a scene where she like where it all begins really, but there's a scene where she like goes to a bar and she meets up with a dude and she hooks up. And she literally leaves money on the table, like as like he was just some prostitute, and like okay. I mean, he approaches her like on some game stuff, like he was just like in Japan and saw an American woman and wanted to spit some game because maybe he didn't know Chinese or something or Japanese, and so it was just a moment to where it was like maybe that guy wasn't even coming to her like that on some like I'm a prostitute and you need to pay me for my services.
Okay.
And like
okay.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like imagine like her gulliness. Like she's just like she's not even thinking about like I don't know. Like the way that I saw it was like I've had one night stands with women and I've never just left money on the table. You know what I mean? It's like it's just like that's like a whole nother level.
Sure.
It's like that's stepping into sugar daddy level, you know? It's like
I just really quick I want to address that I was not expecting to dive into this today. This kind of like energy of talks, but it's cool. Yeah. It's always interesting.
I mean, because
it's
this is
relatable.
What's in the movie.
It's relatable. I get you.
Movie,
describe
you know?
what's relatable. I totally understand
it's
that.
what's
I do.
in the movie,
I
you
do.
know, and it's like a wow, like I was like shocked. So I was like, wow, okay, you know, it's like goodness,
yeah.
It's like and it's like but like her as it comes out to be her handler, Woody Harrelson, he's like I don't know, Woody Harrelson seemed like he's that cool uncle that like would take you to like he would just take you to your first club or something,
when you're like 16,
right?
or even 14,
or like give you your first drink or something.
Right.
It's like he's that guy,
Yeah.
and like Miku Ani, she definitely shows up in her roles. Like she comes off as a very good actress, and the way she plays her character, she plays a the teenager, and she plays the as she expresses she's half, so she's American and Japanese.
Interesting.
So she plays that role where it's almost like you don't see any context of her, but like the way that she expresses herself, she plays that like I'm always trying to fit in girl. And it's like, and the way you get glimpses of her story, like, you kind of can tell and understand why, because the context of who her family is, and, maybe just how they would hold space for, like, family pride. You're not going to go hang out with just anybody kind of thing. And so, it's like, she's always trying to look for acceptance and, like, a crew, a belonging. And so it's like you get this space where like she plays her role very well and you just get it, and so it makes the whole experience of the movie mean something when you can kind of see that aspect of her.
It's always good to have a character like that.
And then it intertwines with how Kate and Ani really know each other, because like we're not giving too much but it just gives the reality of how they know each other and why she has this demeanor.
Interesting.
And so it gives even further depth to like the end and like the forward, like the whole scene of the movie. So that space right there is like the relationship, which is going to be an aspect of another theme of what I want to say. So Woody Harrelson or Ani as supporting actors, which is what we're talking about. And I really would say like Woody is the guy, and he's the GOAT because he plays his character very well.
He does,
but he's not in the movie too much to where it's like I feel he would really like stand up to bat with Ani. But like anytime he's in the scene, like he plays the cool uncle. So it's like he's gonna have a simple one-liner. He's gonna be clever with it, and he just like plays his role so well. Like if you've seen him in because he's played the handler in many movies.
That's right. Yeah.
Because like he was Katniss's handler.
Oh, that's right.
And,
in the Hunger Games.
And in that way, how he played Katniss, and he's the same way he played this lady Kat. And he just played the friend. He played the confidant. He played like I'm here for you. And it's like, but in the same time, he's playing the field for himself.
Interesting.
And in that space, you understand his role, and it's like, okay, well, all right, I get you. But Ani has all this heart, so Ani takes it. So to relate with the other theme of the year. The assassin with the heart. The female assassin with the heart.
Yeah.
And theme of the year would actually be female assassins, and then the secondary would be female assassins with the heart. because female assassins, you got Black Widow, Milkshake.
Okay, interesting.
And you have like another movie on Netflix. I can't think of the name right now. And
now this one.
And so there's like a couple of movies that are just out right now that's just all about female assassins.
You know, I didn't think about that.
And it's like the female assassin with the heart is the realm of with Milkshake. You know, in Milkshake, I can't remember her name right now, but she killed the girl's dad in the beginning of the movie, which sets the whole situation off. And she then goes to adopt the little girl and brings her as a librarian. And in this way, you know, you have this relative theme of, you know, female assassin with the heart, to where like the engagement of like how Kate knows Ani, and it's like this experience where like she kind of runs into her years later, and then now she's like, you know, oh man, like I need you, and at the same time I'm sorry it's like that I even know you because of how I know you.
It's kind of interesting because don't you think that that's been like a common theme even like throughout like some of these female lead assassin movies, like the whole thing about relationships, like kind of strained relationships, because like think about Black Widow, her relationship with her I guess her stepsister or whatever that young girl was, and then you have in Milkshake the woman's relationship with her mother, kind of like how there's sort of like I didn't think about that, but there's a lot of similarities with all these movies in the assassin theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the female heart always weighs out, no matter how much of a warrior she is.
Yeah.
And it's like it's cool because like, you know, it is like the, I guess you'd probably say the persona of the Amazon, and like that'd probably be like the Valkyrie, if you will, like the Amazon, like the female archetypes that I can think of right now. They'd be the warrior aspect of an archetype, and you know, and like I say like a barbarian or something like that, if you would like give those classifications of warriors. Sure. And so yeah, you really do get this because like comparing Milkshake and Kate, you get very badass fight scenes, which goes into creative kills of the year.
Yes.
It's like, and so like, not in the comparison aspect of Milkshake, but in this movie, there's one scene specific, like there's a lot of really good hand-to-hand combats, and there's a scene where how did she get there? I can't remember exactly how she got there, but she's fighting a guy. Oh, she's inside of this like bar that somebody owns.
Okay.
And somebody owns a bar, and this is where they always go. And they are inside having a meeting about everything that's going on with her and all the situations that's just going on in the family. And she barges in and she shoots one guy in the head immediately. She shoots another guy, and then like some people come in because they was like the security, and they all have like these little knives. It's like, you know, 6-7 inch blades, and like she got a guy by the gun, and then she's like, drop your swords, and they drop them, and then she clicks her gun. I think it like backfires or like misfires, and so they pick up their swords and they come at her, and she like starts like fighting them off and stuff, and she grabs one of their swords. And like she's like working too. She's like ruthless. Like she's absolutely killed any and everybody with one stroke in most situations, because like she's like stabbing through people. She's like stabbing like she got a guy, and she like imagine she hit him in the like face to face, hit him in the gut, and then she twirled him around, got him down on the ground.
Whoa.
And then hit him in the side of the neck. And then she kept hitting him. There's like you got him.
So brutal.
Right, you know? And she was like, you know, just imagining like to see like as like an opponent. Because like that's what like the other reality is, that in this inverse reality, she is probably like just But she's also like in this mind game with these people, because like they just saw this woman like just like flip this guy around, stab him in the gut, flip him around, like, and damn near like just take his whole neck away. Like what are they gonna do against that?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Point.
Like she's like, they don't have like the ruthlessness as that right there.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? And like that's what gets you seats on thrones. You know what I mean? Like back in the olden days, like to fight with such like ruthless nature and be able to fend off like 40 men all at one time. You know, that's what got you as a regent of land. Like because you were that guy to be able to fight. You know what I mean? Like there was a moment in the movie when Kojima and Kate are walking around. Kojima sees her, like she goes in and shoots these people and just like goes through, and just like one woman storms this whole situation, and then like Kojima like helps her, and she's fucked up the whole fucking movie. So like Kojima's trying to help her, and she just walks. She like gets up by herself, and she just like walks off like all gully, and just like it's like just in the space of like she's just like she doesn't need anybody's help, she doesn't want anybody's help, and she's just like so empowered. But like you see in spaces of this movie and like the context of what's going on inside of the movie that like she's in thriving pain. Like she's messed up the whole movie. And like in this space,
because of all the impact that's happened on her,
there's a lot of stuff that's going on that I just won't give away because it's the basis of the movie. But it's like it's the sentiment just to know once you realize it, she's messed up the whole movie. It's like, but she gets up in this late scene, and she gets up, and Kojima and she walks off, and just he looks at her, and he's like, damn. Like, and my first thought was like, he's like, man, I wish I had her as one of my regents. Like, I wish I had her as like somebody who I can just like call on. And like, or somebody who's right here with me. Yeah. Like, you know, it's like I need something done. She'll get it done. Yeah. And so there's another scene where she's fighting a guy, and she's fighting two guys. So she like hits the guys with the hands and like kind of kicks a guy. She grabs a guy by the hair, and she kind of like say he was standing, and she kicks his leg out. So now he's like damn near in the splits. And then she like stomps on his knee that's like standing out like in the splits. So like the man don't got no leg anymore. Like, Jesus. And then like she comes around and she slices another guy's in the neck. Whoa. And like she has this blade. And like and she does something, I think she hits a guy in the stomach again, and then she pushes the sword up his jugular through his nose, and it's like you just see it come out, and it's a slow motion scene. And it's like, so he's just like right. So it's like a hilarious point, but it's just like it's like wow, you know, it's like they get it in. And,
it's so weird.
Yeah, and so like I'd say like that was like some of the major fight scenes in there. Like there's a good couple more, but those like the major two scenes that were like, oh yeah, those were those are very much good kills. Okay. Kills of the year. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's interesting. So yeah, good creative kills. Theme of the year, you know, that's females assassins, and you know, best supporting actor. Yeah. Miku.
And Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson played his part. Absolutely.
He did absolutely. So what would you before we kind of close out your review, what would you give it really quick?
I would say
it doesn't seem like a movie that's really like a lot of story plots into it.
No, not at all. There's no story plot. I mean, you there is story development. Yes, there is great story development. Like there's a back end plot that unfolds through her development, through her mission in the movie. Like through the mission that she takes on for herself in the movie, which is a big aspect. There's things that get like stories get unfolded. Okay. You know, so you definitely get like a storyline. You definitely have like something you're paying attention to with popcorn and stuff like that, eating and things, and like you know, it's like so you're interested is what I'm saying. Yeah. And so, and then with that, like, yeah, you definitely have enough in there to where you want to come back. I'd say you know, it gets like a good 8, 9.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
like I would say it's a good movie in that space of like I said, fun people to watch in the movie, like people you want to recognize, and then yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I really enjoyed actually hearing about that. I will definitely have to check that one out. So, I'll move on to mine. And so, mine is, I guess because I'm actually, even though it's December, I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, dive into 2 different horror movies. But I'll dive into the one that I think is getting a lot more undermined than James Wan's, because, of course, James Wan is a big name. So, of course, people go to see something like that. The one that I'll be talking about first will be The Night House, and it's a psychological horror directed by David Bruckner, who's also done movies that I've enjoyed, such as VHS, and what was the other one called? He did a few years ago, The Ritual, which has actually been on Netflix since 2018, so a good 3.5 years now. I saw it when it came out, and I think the story is very, very interesting. At least the way that he tells his stories. He kind of has a very typical way of setting up his characters and sort of diving into like the horror elements of his stories, because all he's done sort of is horror, but he does, like I said, a lot of different, more the psychological than the we're going to jump at you at every single second and kind of just scare you with like random scares. So the movie stars Rebecca Hall, who plays Beth, and we have Sarah Goldenberg playing her friend Claire. We have Stacey Barton also playing her friend Madeline. And then we have her boyfriend played by Evan. His name is kind of interesting to say. I think you say Jonkett. And he plays the boyfriend that is basically kind of the center and the Kickstarter of where this movie begins, because the movie begins with Rebecca Hall learning that her husband, Owen, has just committed suicide. And she can't quite figure out as to why, because to her knowledge, she was very happy with Owen. She and Owen, I think the movie dived into it a little bit, but they were supposed to get engaged and married. So to suddenly just hear about his suicide and apparently his unhappiness with her kind of just sort of baffles her and kind of unravels her in different ways, as she's also, the movie opens up with her mourning and her being unable to like move all his belongings, away or to sell them, because, I have never really had to go through grief like that, but the movies, I'm pretty sure has like an audience where like they can relate to that. If you ever lost somebody that's, not even just a husband, a father, a mother, can be very relatable, where it's hard to sort of, move on even with their belongings. You kind of want a sentimental piece of them to remember. So she's keeping all these belongings of Owen in this house that they owned at the lake that they used to go to, for their little getaways. And so Beth is mostly going through like the typical stages of depression, which is, first it's denial, and then, it's kind of like this turmoil of like her getting lost in things like drinking and not really getting enough sleep, which adds to like the horror elements of the movie, which I won't give away everything, but I will say that, because I actually have my own thing listed down here about how I thought this movie had a lot of very unexpected jump scares and horror elements. And one of the things that it does very well is it deals with sort of, I think the word is like optical illusion kind of horror. Like, so for example, I'll give you like an example of what I mean. Those like that are familiar with art and you've kind of studied art a little bit, may be familiar with the vase, the vase kind of picture, where it's like a face. Well, you see a vase at first, but then next thing you know, you start to see like these two faces sort of face. You've heard of that perspective, yeah. So the movie deals with that a lot, like as far as like, so there's one example that I will say that they give away in the trailer that they dive into a little bit more in the movie that I won't spoil, but there's a part in the trailer that if you guys saw it where she's in a room by herself and she kind of starts to see something kind of peer in the corner of a bookshelf, and you think, oh, okay, like it's just probably like some kind of structure that's like, a bookshelf or part of a door frame. And the way that she goes, or she kind of steps back, it starts to sort of form like a figurehead because of the perspective that she's at. And then you're kind of thinking, wait, is that what actually she's seeing, or if that's like what the optical illusion is kind of making us? And then next thing you know, that thing is turning its head towards her, and she drops the glass, and then boom, she's like freaked the hell out of like, what the hell did I just see? They do something very similar like that very early on in the movie, which I thought was like, whoa. I mean, they don't really like linger on it, but they just kind of give you like a nice hint at it, which is where she's in this is like the first or second scene where she's like in the night house by herself, and she's kind of like walking around at night, and then all of a sudden the door, like it's one of those glass doors, like see-through glass doors, and it opens, and then as it opens and turns, like, and you can kind of like see her like, behind her, you kind of like start to see something else like forming in the corner, but you can't exactly see what it is. And it's kind of like, again, it gives you that perspective of like, is this something that like the director is intentionally like fucking with us, our minds, like to try to make us see like we're seeing things like she is, or is this actually something that is forming and manifesting itself around her? Because the movie does have a lot of I will say more towards the end, but a lot of more demonic and otherworldly kind of elements, and that's a lot that what she deals with, because she learned that Owen was actually a conjurer of like of demons. He had like this weirdly kind of screwed up, freaky looking voodoo doll with a bunch of like different, and they also give that away in the trailer. There's like different kind of like fingernail, not what do they call those things like that they poke them with, but like those voodoo dolls, but basically like those things that you see voodoo dolls, yeah. It's like basically like a voodoo doll of sorts, and you're thinking, what is the purpose of this thing? And she's wondering that too. The whole mystery kind of starts with why the suicide started with him, but then it goes into something else, because then she learns that Owen might have been a cheater, as far as like he might have started seeing other women. And the first person that she starts to see, which is interesting because she actually learns this through like photos that Owen took randomly of women from like behind or far away. Yeah, Owen was kind of a, you get the, not just that, a peeping Tom, a creeper, like, and she goes to like confess to like this woman that she meets at the library, one of the people that Owen was stalking, and she says, look, like my husband just recently committed suicide, and you were one of the people that popped up on his computer, and I think there's some kind of relationship that you might have had with him, and I think you owe it to me as far as like what was your relationship with my husband. And so the woman is denying, it's like, I didn't sleep with him or anything like that, like I swear to God, I just knew him as like a friend, someone I knew. I didn't really like know deeply, but we met like on occasion. And so later on she comes back and says, well, here's the thing, I did actually tell the truth about not sleeping with your husband, but I did go and try to sort of see and test if that was going to happen. But next thing I know, your husband is trying to assault me and trying to like, I don't know if he was trying to maybe, God forbid, kill me, or if he was even trying to rape me, but I just headed out of there and I didn't want anything to do with him after that. And so then all of a sudden, Rebecca Hall's character, Beth, is starting to, like I said, unravel as far as like who her husband was as a person. Like, one moment she thinks he's a cheater, next thing he might be a serial killer. So like, and then she finds all this voodoo stuff. So it's like, what exactly, is this? Who was he as a person? What was his purpose? Yeah, and it deals a lot with sort of her coming to grips with like, like even her friends tell her like, look, everybody has their own secrets, but it's like, no, like I need to learn. She goes through such great lengths, sort of like it's very similar to the last movie we talked about, Reminiscence, but this is obviously well better done. But she's going on this sort of like clue hunt for like her husband, and she's learning all these different mysteries about him, and they give away this twist that I don't want to give away at the end, but it really sort of even gives, I think this is a movie that has to be seen twice, because it gives you sort of that the perspective of, is she actually seeing these things? Is she delusional because of, also the fact that she's an insomniatic person? She doesn't really get a lot of sleep, and she's been drinking on top of it. So is that the cause of all these horror elements, or is there actually something else more sinister at play here?
How do you
Yes. So it's very interesting. I think a lot of people haven't really checked it out enough, which is why I'm recommending it. I think the movie's really well done. As always, David Bruckner has not really disappointed me as a director. I've been following him since VHS, which came out in 2012. I saw it back in the day when it came out, and I was a big fan of it. And I've been following his career ever since. So when he came out with the Ritual, I was like, okay, let me see what this guy can do as sort of like his debut horror. And I think this one was, a different movie, but I think it was better well told because it builds up to the horror element. They don't really like. What I'll dive into for this movie that I think kind of hurt it is a lot of people that saw the trailer that kind of were expecting this. It's interesting because I even saw the comments and they said, "Oh, this is going to be like a Tenet, Christopher Nolan's new movie, like which is dealing with like a backwards alternate reality. This is what this movie is going to be in horror." And I'm like, no. That's why I'm saying the trailer gave such a really not bad, but the wrong perspective of what this movie was about. The movie is not for, again, those that are going to go see it and check it out. Your expectations of the trailer should be different from the movie because the trailer sort of hyped you up for this, movie that's going to show you jump scares and sort of deal with a lot more of like the psychological thriller. It's there, but you really have to like sort of sit through, and it's not like boring stuff, but it is a lot of, very human, sort of everyday, like I said, mundane kind of things that, everybody deals with grief. And not to sound like an asshole, but like if you're somebody who says, oh, I don't want to watch a movie with somebody who's grieving and mourning over a person, that sounds so boring. Well, then this might not be the movie for you. But but if you enjoy a movie that sort of builds up and actually really, I think, dives in, like I said last time, if you have a movie that doesn't have a lot of three-dimensional characters, you just have a very forgettable movie. I think this movie is very memorable, not just because of the horror elements, but because it actually really gives way to its characters, like Rebecca Hall, and even her now deceased husband Owen. Like to see, like through like the different footage that they had together, like their happiness, and sort of maybe even like at first you think maybe they were happy with each other, or at least she was, but then maybe you get the perspective that maybe he was kind of playing her a bit. So there's all these different layers of like, like I said, like these are very real things. And if you're like a horror person that's not really going for this, then like I said, it might not be for you. The next movie I talk about might actually be for you because that has a lot of horror elements, but I still think it's well done. So The Night House, I will definitely give a strong 9 out of 10. I definitely think you guys should see this one. It's I don't know if it's on streaming now because I actually tried to check it out for myself and I didn't have any luck finding it. So if it's not, like I said, there are certain movies that you should definitely experience in theater, and I think horror sort of gives weight to that a lot. There's a lot of scenes in here that I think the theater experience will sort of benefit you. So go check it out. It should be playing in a lot of theaters near you, AMC, Regal, whatever you guys interested in, go check it out. So thank you guys for listening to that, and I will actually dive into my next movie, which is Malignant and James Wan. So this is more relatable because James Wan is a very big horror name. For you, actually, you might know him from movies like Saw, the Saw series. I don't think he did all of them, but I think he did at least the first two. He has, talk about a theme. This guy has a very, and it's not. I don't think it's bad at all. But it's just like you're watching a James Wan movie when he has like a shot of a character. That's why I'm saying like that. What's actually what's I think signified him as, the director that we know him today is because he does has a very known theme and style to him in his movies that people enjoy watching. And this movie has that too, but it deals a lot with, like the last movie I talked about, psychological stuff, but it's really, this is like, to me, I think I said to you earlier, it's like if you took like a children's kind of folklore and kind of like, that's what I thought about when I saw this. It's like, because he has a lot of movies like that. The Conjuring kind of gave me that feel, has like a lot of folklore kind of like feel to it. And this one has that too, but with a more kind of modern aspect on it because the movie takes place today. So, how familiar are you with James Wan, by the way? How much have you watched his movies?
The Saw for sure.
Okay, Saw.
I would say, I mean, if like you named off some of the movies he did, and I might know them.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say like if it had to do with Saw, like the sense of the lore and like the psychological aspect, then like I definitely could understand that.
Yeah,
that's definitely, let's say wrote Saw, but in the space of how they filmed it, because there was a lot of lighting that they do in Saw, and that gives like the horror element is always the lighting, and like and then you know the ambient griminess. So like I felt like every time you go into a Saw situation, you're always in this grungy place. Like you just wouldn't want to get cut because you're just like you're gonna get fucking hepatitis. You know, it's like cause it's just like it just looks like there's just been death, and like the energy is probably just stagnant. Like you know, just like you just do not want to be there.
Sure.
And it's like even if you walked into the place just to be a person who walked into the place, you probably wouldn't want to be there.
No.
You know, because the energy just feels bad.
It does.
It's like, so in that way, if that's like this, like he brought that and that's his thing, then to this movie, then like okay, I can imagine it's gonna be a dark, dank movie and people aren't having fun.
No.
Nobody's having fun. If they're in this movie, they're not having fun.
No. I think he kind of is. Like you said it perfectly. He has a very similar thing about putting his main characters, in situations that's like, oh, wow, I don't think you're gonna get out of this, or you're not gonna get out of this like exactly 100% okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You won't be the same.
You won't be the same person. You won't be the same person is the key word here.
Right.
So I think that actually deals a lot with, before actually spoiling this movie, because we're not going to, but you know, I think the theme of what this movie, because let me just dive into a little bit. So Malignant actually stars, let me bring it up here, and this is actually a movie that I was actually misled, because I watched it as a big fan, well, not a big fan, but as a decent fan of like his Conjuring movies. So I was even misled to think that this was going to be sort of even in the same universe as like the other ones, and it's a standalone movie. It's like it's probably his first sort of original like horror movie that has nothing to do with like any of his other properties. So I think, okay, there's a lot more room for like creativity and a lot of talk about a lot of kills. And so the movie stars Annabelle Wellis as Emily May. She also goes by Madison Maddie Lake Michelle. And she's played by, because the movie sort of dives into two different time periods. The movie starts off in 1993 when she's about probably, I'd say 8 to 10 years old. So there she's portrayed by McKenna Grace as young Emily May. And so the movie starts off in the 90s, like I said, sort of, well, I'll kind of sort of give way to the opening because it actually doesn't give away that much about the movie. But so the movie starts off in a hospital, and there's a doctor that's like, she's with her colleagues, and they're in this room, and obviously there's some kind of demonic possession that's going on here that they're trying to contain, but you're not quite sure, because we don't see, like, for example, we don't see the patient's face at all, so there's no perspective on who exactly this person is and what their relation to the story is. So that's something that, without giving away the twist, we learn through the unraveling of the story and what we build up to towards the end, because we dive into two different periods between 1993 and I guess the current year 2021. So so the movie stars her, and then also stars George Young as one of the detectives, Detective Kiko Shaw. Hope I'm not mispronouncing these names, excuse me. And we also have Maddie Haddison as Sydney Lake, and Nicole Brenna White as Detective Reggie Moss. And these are also the two people who actually, I have to say, this I think I'm saying her name right, Nicole Brianna White as Detective Reggie Moss. She actually probably was my favorite character, because she actually reminded me a lot of Fanny Newton's character in Reminiscence, but more heightened as far as like her sassiness, because like she doesn't buy any of this horror shit that's going on with Annabelle's main character Emily. She kind of just thinks she's a crazy bitch that just like lost her mind, and she has that perspective of like, I'm just doing my job and I could give a shit less if you die or if you live through this whole thing. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, okay, like I actually can kind of not relate, but I love when they kind of dive into characters like that. They kind of just, it's real, and it adds like a nice little element to the horror movie, a nice comedic element. So these two detectives, Detective Shaw and Detective Moss, they're the ones that are following Emily as she's kind of learning about, supposedly, she had this, one of those special cases of an imaginary friend where, as a little girl, she would talk to this thing. And then, so when we see this through like old VHS footage that she had as a child, we're thinking, maybe like it typically in his movies, is this like a ghost, maybe a demon? Like what exactly is like the mystery here? Like what's causing her to see her, because she sees, she feels, she like connects with this thing, this imaginary friend named Gabriel that has been with her as a child, and that we kind of start to learn might actually be more part of her than we think. And so, without giving too much away, Emily goes to her mother, and eventually she kind of starts to also learn about things about her family, and things that they were keeping from her, as far as like not just the fact that she had an imaginary friend, but what exactly that imaginary friend has to do with her current day situation, which is, one thing I didn't dive into is she's in this very abusive relationship with, actually, funny enough, this guy's very good at playing, let me see if I can bring up his name. He was also in The Hunger Games. He played the villain / typical asshole dude. This is Jake Abel. Even a name like Jake, it's a very typical white, Jake. So Jake Abel plays Derek. Oh my God, even Derek. My goodness. So how much more douchebaggery can you get? So Derek is the, like I said, the typical douchebag boyfriend that abuses her and all that, and goes so far, even says, oh, but I have demons, you have to understand, I've been through a lot. And so he's very good at playing these kind of characters. And thank you. So Jake Abel, he's not in it very long, probably like only towards the beginning, but he kind of, they have this fight one night, and this is kind of where the mystery starts to unravel, where he busts her head against the wall like really hard, like when he abuses her. And the next day, like all of a sudden, because they decide not to sleep in the same room after that, of course. And the next day when she wakes up, she's bleeding from the back of her head, and of course you could think, okay, that's probably from the night before, but it kind of seems interesting that like her head didn't like bleed right at that very second, and there was kind of like almost a delayed process of like her injury, and like the next day, like she feels it even more than ever, like her pillows and everything are covered in blood. So you're like, what the hell is going on right now? And so and then that's actually then when she starts to kickstart the element of like seeing and feeling Gabriel's presence again. And then Gabriel is sort of, unbeknownst to her now, able to manifest himself in a, what we think, because the movie kind of plays on your perspective, a couple different scenes make it seem like it's a person, like in like something like Scream, where it's a guy in a cloak with a mask. But then he, for example, he goes to the movie killing different people that are close to close to the Emily character, and you think, okay, there's a couple of shots where, okay, maybe a human could do that, but then next thing you know, like he's out of the room like in a split second. So you're thinking, okay, again, is this like a demonic entity possessing somebody, or is this like an actual like possessed human that is somehow able to like be contorted and so that's the fun mystery about this movie is you see all these really, and they are very creative kills the way that they're done, but then you think, okay, am I actually watching an actual human being do these kills, or is this a freaking person, not a person but a ghost entity actually like, it's kind of it's interesting how it manifests and plays on your perspective. As a horror fan, this is the movie that you want to check out, as far as like, okay, a lot of very creative jump scares, but I will say, for the first time that I think that's been done in his movies, because he does jump scares well, but he always does the whole thing of like what every horror movie will do with, somebody will pass in a corner. It's not even a ghost. It's just a person like, hey, how's it going? Just passing by. It just kind of like, okay, it's more annoying than it is like anything else.
The jump scare with nothing being revealed.
This movie doesn't do that at all. The movie actually, when it says, I'm going to scare you, it legitimately punches you to the gut as far as like some of the horror elements and even some of the gory shit that they have in here. So it's, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not, like the last movie I talked about with the Night House, I think I was more leaning towards that as far as like, I enjoy that horror aspect more, like the psychological thriller, but I think this has enough perspective of that, while also having that perspective of, oh, we're also going to add a lot of jump scares into this for those that love like being on the edge of your seat and like, oh my god, what's going to appear in the corner. Like, it has all of those elements that you love in horror movies, but it's well done. It's not like played for your expectations for like, oh, like you said, like, nothing happens. There actually is something well done, as typically like, like one thing that I will give that was in the trailer that I thought was really interesting is where the ghost first manifests itself, and you sort of see it as like, well, because it's somebody else seeing it, and you think to yourself, well, maybe it is a ghost. And even the way it's kind of forming, because they don't really dive into this movie, it does have the problems of, we're not going to tell you everything that, because there's certain things of like, wait, if you were, if this what I think it was, where you were just possessed, or if you were a ghost, then why did this happen? I didn't question it too much. I just kind of like let it flow. But I think that one thing that they did show in the trailer that I think that they didn't dive into, that, maybe, as the director said, James Wan, he said, maybe I came in with this for a one take kind of thing, but hey, if it gets popular enough, we might do a sequel. Maybe they'll dive into that. But there's one shot where when the ghost is first seen, it looks almost like it's like, if you've guys seen like the movie like The Ring, there's a part in that movie that I think it's the first movie where she comes out of the TV, and there's a part where she's coming out of the TV and she's like it's almost like she's a TV character, because like she's like made out of static, and like you see like almost like a woman where she like flickers, like she's like a bad static channel. And that's what the ghost looks like when you first see it. It doesn't even look like a human kind of manifestation. It looks like a just a black kind of gown creature thing made out of like static. And so you're thinking, maybe this is a ghost. So that's really where the movie starts to really play on your expectations. And like I said, this is a movie that has to be seen to really give you that perspective of like, oh, okay, yeah, I wasn't expecting this. A lot of unexpected jump scares too. The one that I dived into, that one kind of actually got me with the fact when the creature first pops up and the boyfriend dies. That's why he's not in the movie, but that's the only spoiler I'll give away. And then there's a lot of other things too that are done with just creative shots where, like, for example, she's being chased in a room, and it's kind of interesting because you can tell he's used sort of like these new kind of drone shots that we're able to do in movies now, but like it's like a ghost, almost like finally we can actually sort of see it, where it's almost like a ghost just like floating and just chasing her up the stairs as she's like, running away from it and closing the door on it. And it's like, whoa, like I have never seen like, as far as like horror elements well done before, like into this day and age. Of course James Wan would be like the guy who's to capitalize on it, but to see him like, sort of reclaim that title of like, this is why this guy is like the king of horror, because he does things in this movie like creative shots, that are so well done. And like I said, this is a movie that has to be seen in theaters to really be fully immersed in the experience. I'm not gonna lie, I did see it on HBO Max just to make it more convenient. But if you want to see it on HBO Max, streaming is the big thing now. I get that, but if you really, really want to get that full immersion experience of like horror and like being on the edge of your seat, this movie is gonna do such a good job for you as far as that. So I give it probably not as strong as the other one, but I would probably definitely give it a strong. I would say like I was caught between like a 7 and an 8. I'll give it like a good 7.5. Yeah, it's well done. I had some problems with it, but they were like, the movie was already halfway done, so I was like, okay, whatever. Maybe in the sequel, hopefully, actually, you know what? This is one of the rare cases where it doesn't really set up for a sequel, but I actually kind of want to lead, where the story goes. Like, it may seem like there's more to this girl, to her past, maybe even a prequel / sequel. I'm curious. Do something with James Wan, please. I'm curious. That's cool. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And also, it's very early for October, but those that are big fans of horror movies, this is something that if you guys don't get a chance to check out, probably will be coming out by the next couple of weeks by Halloween. So if you guys are in the mood to maybe like I said, I reviewed 2 horror movies. So if you're in the mood for something back to back that's gonna like kind of give you different perspectives on horror, but actually both kind of put you on edge and disturb you actually for a lot of images, check these movies out, guys. The Night House and Malignant. Very well done. And as somebody who's not very typically a fan of horror, that I don't even like to talk about horror, I've never even really thought about discussing horror reviews, but like I said, these are 2 movies that really impressed me, so I think they deserve to be checked out.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So
yeah, happy they got to check out Kate. Definitely is a good movie.
Yeah.
Good hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
Good creative kills.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a lot of great acting in the whole scenes of everything. So, awesome sauce. Yeah. So,
before we kind of close out really quick, I just want to say something here too. The reviews that we kind of have been doing on the last couple movies, because I was actually having this talk with somebody recently. I think it's kind of interesting because we have our different opinions on these things, and I think you and I, like, we can enjoy the same movies, but I think also that's why I like to assign us different movies, because I think based on, like, for you, on the first episode you ever talked to me about with it, being a fan of movies like Fast and Furious and Transformers, I think kind of like, and there's nothing wrong with those action movies, I'm a big fan of them too, but when I think about someone who's a big fan of those movies, I think, okay, like, let me kind of, as far as like, for someone who enjoys those kind of movies, let me recommend something that you might enjoy, like Gunpowder Milkshake, which you did enjoy. Now Kate, that's also enjoyable. I think those kind of movies are really, really interesting to give you as perspective, because like you said before, these are movies that you never probably would have checked out, and seeing them now, you kind of have this perspective of, you don't really watch them because the way you talk about them, they're not just action movies to you. You actually get invested with the characters and the story. So I'm really actually interested, and I'm really glad that you have been enthralled as you have been with these reviews. So thank you for being a part of it and participating in. So I just wanted to give a moment to thank you for this, and thank all of you guys for joining us and for listening. And we hope to do more of this, and we have a couple more episodes coming out as usual, but I have some other segments that we've talked about that we won't really get into right now, but we've definitely discussed that we want to dive into outside of movies reviews, and we'll be probably getting into that here coming into like the next couple months, more leading into like the winter. But I'm very, very excited to share this with you guys, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. So thank you for joining us today on the Polar Opposite Podcast, and we'll see you guys very soon. Have a great day or night, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you soon.
Later. Hey, well, yes, I would like to say thank you for listening. Thank you for being present with us.
Yes.
And have the day. Peace.